Paul Scully.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Over the last year, I've visited a number of local independently run pharmacies, community pharmacies across Sutton. They add so much more to our local healthcare provision, with the potential to add so much more, as we've heard. And so we need to tread carefully when looking at changes to funding and configuration. Spending time in those pharmacies, I saw a steady stream of customers, most of whom the pharmacist knew by name, their background and wider circumstance. That's a special relationship that takes time to build and can be so valuable in assessing health needs and preempting any problems. We need to look at how we can develop community pharmacies further as a neighbourhood health and wellbeing hub, becoming the go-to destination for support, advice and acting as a gateway for other healthcare services. Now, I've been to A&E, as a number of us I'm sure have, and seen there people that have neither had an accident nor seem to be in an emergency. So it's right that, that we look at how to push people towards GP services. However, there seems to be less discussion in public about encouraging people to look to their pharmacist rather than GP for healthy lifestyle advice, minor ailments and routine support. We've heard some great examples. I know the All-Party Pharmacy Group had held some great evidence from Lloyd's Pharmacy Group about their diabetes foot service and about their inhaler check service as well, which enables them to get the most out of their treatment for those and make sure their medication is far more effective. And it's those kind of extra services that are incredibly valuable for community pharmacies.
Well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to intervene. Does anyone also recognise, though, we need to actually make greater use of things like opticians and things like that too in pharmacies as well?
Well, your friend makes a very good point, and I do welcome that, absolutely. Independent pharmacies in Sutton conduct medicine reviews, as we've heard from others, and often delivered to their patient's home. And that way, they actually get to see them in their own environment rather than in a GP surgery. They get to see what's left in the bathroom cabinet, forgotten about or set aside, because ignoring or forgetting to take prescribed medicine causes such waste. So an estimated £300 million every year that could be going to other frontline services. Now, by seeing the patient in their own environment, the pharmacist can make an assessment based on the patient's everyday life, rather than just a snapshot, which may be affected by things like white coat syndrome. Now, when we talk about consultation room services, such as sexual health services, smoking cessation and minor ailments, it's got to be a good thing for the NHS and it needs to be encouraged. Now, from what I saw, though, when I was in pharmacies, there's still too much of a disconnect in the exchange of patient information between the GP and pharmacists. Yeah. And now, if that's to work, advice and treatment needs to be done in full knowledge of the patient's background and medical history. Now, I understand the concerns which have driven this review and the changes that we're debating today. The current funding system encourages pharmacy companies to open numerous low prescription volume sites, especially with a guaranteed fixed payment of $25,000 per year, regardless of size, quality or local demand. 40% of pharmacies are now in clusters of 2 or more, with 20% being in 10 minutes walk of at least 2 others. Now, that's reflected in Sutton as well. There's 3 in Worcester Park, 4 in North Cheam and 6 in and around Sutton High Street. But my concern is that any closures which may result from these changes will more likely to come from the independent portion, those pharmacists who go beyond the corporate approach, often offering services at no cost or at a loss because it's the right thing to do, prioritising the service that patients need rather than shareholder value. Responding to their customers on a personal basis also allows independent pharmacists to look at savings such as generic substitution. Now, we talk about a 7-day NHS, Madam Deputy Speaker, but pharmacists need to be set free to offer a high street NHS. The government changes recognise much of what the pharmacist bodies have been raising. The changes seek to move pharmacists away from being reliant primarily on dispensing income, which is more vulnerable in the long term, towards services. Repeat prescriptions and those coming via the 111 service will be directed to pharmacies rather than out-of-hours GPs. For the first time, pharmacies will be paid for the quality of service they're providing, not just volume. So there's much to be welcomed here, but I urge the Minister to keep the impact of changes on independent, often family-run pharmacists under constant review. I will, very briefly.
It is speaking very well for the independent pharmacy sector, and I think it is those that I think we should be protecting more than anything else. because they are the first triage which will actually save the NHS money down the line. They know their patients well and can be saving a lot of money for the general NHS drugs bill by knowing their patients, knowing the GPs, and actually suggesting something cheaper. I'm not convinced that the government has looked into this aspect closely enough.
Thank my honourable friend for that intervention. I've talked about generic substitution. I've talked about some of the things Lloyd's Pharmacy are doing and family-run services in consultation rooms as well. And these are to be welcomed, these are to be encouraged and boosted as well, the more we can do. But I urge the Minister, when in the coming months and years, to keep the impact of these changes on the independent, often family-run pharmacists under constant review, because I know I and many others in this place certainly will. Thank you, Madam Desmond.